The flickering neon signs of the spaceport cast long, distorted shadows across the rain-slicked landing pads. A low, guttural rumble, like the growl of a predator, echoed through the vast hangar. It wasn't the sound of a standard cargo freighter, nor the sleek hum of a civilian shuttle. This was something else. Something ancient, powerful, and utterly terrifying. On the screen, the grainy feed from the perimeter security drones showed a colossal vessel, its hull a patchwork of obsidian and shimmering, alien metal, settling onto the designated landing zone. The air crackled with an unnatural energy, a palpable sense of dread that settled over the entire facility like a shroud. You could feel it in your gut, a primal fear that whispered of something fundamentally wrong. We, as humans, had always prided ourselves on our resilience, our ability to adapt and overcome. We had ventured into the stars, built colonies on distant worlds, and even made tentative contact with a few other species. But tonight, that confidence felt brittle, a thin veneer over the chilling reality that we were about to face something far beyond our comprehension. This wasn't just another first contact scenario. This wasn't a trade negotiation or a scientific exchange. This was a reckoning. This was the arrival of the Chaos, and at the helm, their queen. A being whose name was whispered in hushed tones across the galactic fringes, a figure of legend, a harbinger of destruction. And she was here, on Earth's doorstep, with a single, chilling message: you will pay human. We'd known about the Chaos for decades, of course. Their existence was a dark footnote in the history of galactic exploration, a cautionary tale told to wide-eyed cadets in training academies. They were a hive-minded species, their society built on a rigid hierarchy, ruled by a powerful, almost godlike queen. They were known for their ruthlessness, their unwavering determination, and their insatiable hunger for conquest. For centuries, they had carved a bloody path through the stars, absorbing lesser species into their collective, expanding their territory with ruthless efficiency. We'd always believed that we were too far away, too insignificant to warrant their attention. We were wrong. The events that led to this confrontation were a tangled web of misunderstandings, miscalculations, and ultimately human arrogance. It started, as so many things do, with a discovery. A remote mining outpost, located on the fringes of known space, had stumbled upon an artifact of immense power. A crystalline structure, pulsating with an unknown energy that the miners, in their ignorance, had dared to tamper with. They had no idea they had disturbed a sacred KRYL relic, a piece of their queen's own essence. The artifact, it turned out, was a beacon, a homing device that allowed the KRYL to track their lost possessions. When the miners activated it, they had unwittingly sent a signal across the vast expanse of space, a signal that reached the KRYL homeworld, alerting them to the theft. The KRYL Queen, a being of immense psychic power and unyielding resolve, felt the disturbance, the violation of her sacred relic. And she did not take it lightly. The initial response was swift and brutal. A small fleet of KRL warships, sleek and menacing, descended upon the mining outpost, obliterating it in a matter of minutes. No survivors, no transmissions, no trace. Just a silent, empty void where a thriving colony had once stood. It was a message, a clear and unambiguous warning to any who dared to cross the KRL. But we, in our hubris, misinterpreted it. We saw it as an isolated incident, a tragic but ultimately isolated event. We underestimated the Queen's wrath. We underestimated the KRL's determination. The arrival of the Queen's flagship was a stark reminder of our folly. It was a vessel of unimaginable size and power, a testament to the KRL's technological superiority. Its very presence radiated an aura of dominance, a chilling reminder of our insignificance in the grand scheme of the cosmos. The landing was a spectacle of controlled power, the ship settling onto the pad with a thunderous roar, the air shimmering with the heat of its engines. The ground trembled, the very foundations of the spaceport shaking under the weight of the colossal vessel as the landing ramp hissed open. A wave of anticipation, mixed with a healthy dose of dread, swept through the assembled crowd. Security personnel, diplomats, scientists, all watched with bated breath as the first KRL emerged from the ship. They were tall, slender figures, their bodies encased in sleek, biomechanical armor. Their faces were hidden behind featureless masks, their eyes glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light. They moved with a fluid grace, their movements precise and efficient, like the gears of a perfectly calibrated machine. Behind them, a figure emerged, a figure that commanded attention, a figure that radiated power. The HFY Queen. She was taller than her warriors, her form regal and imposing. Her armor, unlike that of her soldiers, was adorned with intricate patterns, shimmering with an iridescent sheen. Her face, though alien, possessed a strange, captivating beauty. But her eyes, those glowing, predatory eyes, held a coldness that chilled the soul. She surveyed the assembled crowd, her gaze sweeping over them like a predator assessing its prey. There was no emotion in her eyes, no hint of compassion or understanding. Just a cold, calculating intelligence, a ruthless determination. She raised a hand, a gesture that silenced the murmuring crowd. Her voice, amplified by the ship's speakers, echoed through the hangar, a voice that was both melodic and menacing. "Humans," she began, her voice resonating with an otherworldly power, "you have trespassed upon sacred ground. You have stolen what is rightfully ours. You have dared to provoke the chaos." Her words hung in the air, heavy with accusation, heavy with the weight of her authority. The crowd shifted nervously, their eyes darting around the hangar, searching for an escape, for a way out of this nightmare. But there was no escape. They were trapped, caught in the crosshairs of the HFY Queen's wrath. "You will pay, human," she repeated, her voice laced with a chilling finality. "You will pay for your arrogance. You will pay for your transgression." And with those words, the HFY Queen unleashed her power. A wave of psychic energy surged through the hangar, a force so powerful, so overwhelming, that it sent shockwaves through the very fabric of reality. The lights flickered and died, plunging the hangar into darkness. The air crackled with energy, the smell of ozone filling the nostrils. The ground trembled, the very foundations of the spaceport groaning under the strain. People screamed, their voices lost in the chaos. Security personnel scrambled for their weapons, but it was too late. They were caught in the Queen's psychic storm, their minds overwhelmed, their bodies paralyzed. The HFY warriors moved with deadly efficiency, their weapons spitting bolts of energy, their movements swift and precise. The hangar became a scene of carnage, a slaughterhouse. People fell, their bodies riddled with energy blasts, their screams cut short. The air filled with the acrid smell of burning flesh, the metallic tang of blood. The HFY Queen stood at the center of the chaos, her eyes glowing with an unholy light, her power radiating outwards, crushing everything in its path. Amidst the chaos, a small group of individuals, a ragtag band of scientists, engineers, and security personnel, managed to escape the hangar. They fled into the labyrinthine corridors of the spaceport, their hearts pounding, their minds reeling from the horror they had witnessed. They knew they had to warn the rest of humanity, to alert them to the impending danger. They knew they had to find a way to fight back, to resist the HFY Queen's wrath. One of them, a young engineer named Alex, stumbled through the darkened corridors, his breath ragged, his hands trembling. He had witnessed the Queen's power firsthand, had seen the carnage she had unleashed. He knew that humanity was facing an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered. He knew that they were facing extinction. As Alex and his group navigate the spaceport, trying to find a secure communication array to send a warning, they encounter more HFY soldiers, their biomechanical forms moving with silent, deadly purpose. A tense chase ensues, with Alex and his companions using their knowledge of the spaceport's layout to evade the HFY. They utilize maintenance tunnels, hidden access points, and even sabotage certain sections of the spaceport to slow the HFY's pursuit. During their escape, they stumble upon a hidden research lab, a forgotten corner of the spaceport dedicated to studying alien technologies. Inside, they find a deactivated prototype, a weapon unlike anything they had ever seen. It was a device that harnessed the power of subspace, a weapon capable of disrupting the very fabric of reality. But it was unfinished, its power source unstable, its controls untested. Alex, with his engineering expertise, realizes that this weapon might be their only chance. If they could reactivate it, If they could stabilize its power source, they might be able to turn the tide against the KRL. But they were running out of time. The KRL were closing in, their relentless pursuit growing ever closer. They work feverishly, their hands flying over the complex controls, their minds racing to solve the intricate puzzles of the alien technology. The air crackles with energy, the prototype humming with a growing power. They are so close, so tantalizingly close to activating the weapon. But then, the doors to the lab burst open, and the KRL warriors flood in. They're the KRL warriors, their glowing eyes fixed on the human intruders, advanced with chilling precision. Energy weapons crackled, filling the cramped lab with the smell of burnt ozone. Alex and his companions, caught between the activated prototype and the encroaching KRL, knew they had to make a choice. Fight or flee. But fighting in such a confined space, against such formidable foes, seemed like a death sentence. "Activate the shield," a scientist yelled, his voice strained with panic. Alex, his fingers flying across the control panel, managed to engage the prototype's defensive systems. A shimmering energy field enveloped the group, deflecting the KRL's initial barrage. But the shield was weakening, its energy reserves dwindling rapidly. "We can't hold them off for long," Alex shouted, his eyes darting between the prototype's flickering power indicators and the relentless KRL warriors. "We need to finish calibrating the weapon." They worked frantically, their minds racing, their hands moving with desperate speed. But the KRL were relentless, their energy blasts pounding against the shield, each impact chipping away at its integrity. The lab's atmosphere grew thick with tension, the air heavy with the smell of burning metal and ozone. Suddenly, the shield flickered and died, leaving them exposed to the KRL's onslaught. Alex, reacting instinctively, grabbed a discarded power cell and hurled it at a nearby console, triggering a cascade of sparks and explosions. The resulting chaos created a momentary distraction, enough for them to scramble towards a hidden access panel. They slipped through the narrow opening, the KRL's energy blasts narrowly missing them. The panel slammed shut, plunging them into darkness. They were trapped, but they were alive. For now as they navigated the labyrinthine maintenance tunnels, Alex's mind raced, trying to piece together the puzzle of the KRL's relentless pursuit. Why were they so determined to retrieve this artifact? What was its significance? And why was the Queen so personally involved? He remembered the stories he had heard about the KRL, the tales of their ruthless conquests, their insatiable hunger for power. They were a species driven by a singular purpose, a collective will that was embodied by their queen. She was the heart of their hive mind, the source of their power, the embodiment of their collective consciousness. The artifact, he realized, must be more than just a relic. It was a piece of the queen herself, a fragment of her essence, a key to her power. To lose it would be a devastating blow, a crippling wound to the KRL's collective psyche, and now they had it. Or rather, they had a weapon that could potentially wield it. The prototype, if they could stabilize its power source, could become a weapon capable of disrupting the KRL's very connection to their queen, a weapon capable of severing their hive mind. But the risks were immense. The prototype was unstable, its power source volatile. If they failed to calibrate it correctly, it could explode, obliterating everything within a considerable radius. And even if they succeeded, they had no idea what the consequences of disrupting the KRL's hive mind would be. It could trigger a catastrophic reaction, a wave of psychic energy that could devastate the entire planet. They emerged from the maintenance tunnels into a dimly lit storage bay, a vast cavern filled with crates and containers. They were far from the main hangar, but they could still hear the distant sounds of the KRL's search. "We need to find a secure location," Alex said, his voice low. "Somewhere we can work on the prototype without being disturbed." They moved cautiously through the storage bay, their eyes scanning the shadows, their ears straining for any sound of approaching KRL. They found a hidden alcove, a small, shielded compartment that was used for storing sensitive equipment. It was cramped and cluttered, but it would have to do. They set to work, their hands flying over the prototype's intricate controls. Alex, with his engineering expertise, began to trace the flow of energy, trying to identify the source of the instability. The scientists, meanwhile, analyzed the artifact, trying to decipher its cryptic symbols, trying to understand its connection to the KRL Queen. As they worked, they shared stories, memories of their lives before the KRL arrived. They spoke of their families, our friends, their dreams for the future. They spoke of their fear, their despair, but also of their hope, their determination to fight back. They were ordinary people, thrust into extraordinary circumstances. They were not soldiers, not heroes. They were just humans, trying to survive, trying to protect their home. Meanwhile, the KRL Queen, aboard her flagship, monitored the progress of her warriors. She could feel the disturbance, the faint echo of her lost essence. She could feel the humans tampering with her sacred relic. Her anger grew, a cold, burning rage that threatened to consume her. She had underestimated the humans, their resilience, their ingenuity. She had believed that they would crumble before her power, that they would surrender without a fight. But they were proving to be more stubborn, more resourceful than she had anticipated. They were fighting back, defying her authority, challenging her power. She would not tolerate such insolence. She would not allow them to steal her power, to disrupt her hive mind. She would crush them, annihilate them, erase them from existence. She turned to her warriors, her eyes glowing with an unholy light. "Increase the search," she commanded, her voice resonating with an otherworldly power. "Find the humans, retrieve the artifact, and bring me their heads." Her warriors, their minds linked to her own, responded with unwavering obedience. They intensified their search, their energy weapons crackling, their movements swift and deadly. They were closing in on the humans, their relentless pursuit growing ever closer. Back in the hidden alcove, Alex and his companions were making progress. They had identified the source of the prototype's instability, a faulty energy regulator that was causing the power source to fluctuate. They were working on a workaround, a way to bypass the faulty regulator and stabilize the energy flow, but they were running out of time. The KL were closing in, their relentless pursuit growing ever closer. They could hear the distant sounds of their footsteps, the crackle of their energy weapons. "We're almost there," Alex said, his voice strained with concentration. "Just a few more adjustments." Suddenly, the lights flickered and died, plunging the alcove into darkness. The air crackled with energy, the smell of ozone filling the nostrils. The prototype hummed with a growing power, its energy reserves reaching critical levels. "It's overloading," a scientist yelled, his voice filled with panic. "We need to shut it down." But it was too late. The prototype's power source reached its critical threshold, unleashing a wave of energy that surged through the alcove, overloading the shielding, and sending a shockwave through the spaceport. The lights flickered back on, revealing the alcove in disarray. The prototype was smoking, its controls melted, its power source drained. Alex and his companions were shaken, their bodies tingling with residual energy, but they were alive. And they had learned a valuable lesson. The prototype was too unstable, too dangerous to use in its current state. They needed to find a way to refine it, to control its power, to harness its potential. They knew that the KRWAL would be drawn to the energy surge, that they would be searching for them. They needed to move, to find a new hiding place, a new location where they could continue their work. They slipped out of the alcove, their eyes scanning the shadows, their ears straining for any sound of approaching KRWAL. They moved cautiously through the storage bay, their movements silent and swift. They were caught in a deadly game of cat and mouse, a desperate struggle for survival. They were humans fighting for their home, fighting for their future. And they would not give up. They would not surrender. They would fight until their last breath. They moved like shadows through the labyrinthine corridors of the spaceport, each footstep a silent prayer, each breath a held anticipation. The KL were closing in, their presence a palpable weight in the air, a chilling reminder of the imminent danger. Alex and his small band of survivors knew they were running out of time, running out of places to hide. The spaceport, once a bustling hub of human activity, had become a desolate battleground, a hunting ground for the relentless KO. They found themselves in a section of the spaceport dedicated to environmental control, a series of interconnected chambers and tunnels designed to regulate the atmosphere and temperature of the facility. The air was thick with the hum of machinery, the rhythmic pulse of ventilation systems creating a disorienting symphony of sound. It was a maze of pipes and conduits, a claustrophobic network of passageways that offered both concealment and potential traps. "This way," Alex whispered, his voice barely audible above the drone of the machinery. He led them through a narrow access tunnel, the walls cold and damp against their skin. They moved cautiously, their senses heightened, their eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of the KRU. They reached a central control room, a circular chamber filled with holographic displays and control panels. The room was dark, the power systems offline, but the faint glow of the displays cast an eerie light across the space. Alex moved to a nearby console, his fingers flying across the keypad, attempting to restore power. "If we can reactivate the environmental controls," he said, his voice tense, "we might be able to create a diversion, disrupt their sensors." The scientists, their minds racing, began to analyze the control systems, trying to understand their functions, trying to find a way to manipulate them. They worked feverishly, their hands moving with desperate speed, their eyes fixed on the flickering displays. Suddenly, a red alert flashed across the screens, accompanied by a piercing alarm. The Kerala had detected their presence, their sensors picking up the faint energy signatures of the activated systems. The hunt was on. "They're coming," a security officer yelled, his voice filled with urgency. "We need to move." They scrambled out of the control room, their hearts pounding, their adrenaline surging. They fled through the twisting tunnels, the sounds of the Kerala's pursuit echoing behind them. The spaceport, once a familiar environment, had become a treacherous maze, a deadly obstacle course. They reached a large ventilation shaft, a vertical tunnel that extended deep into the bowels of the spaceport. It was a risky move, but it was their only chance. They climbed into the shaft, their hands gripping the metal rungs, their bodies pressed against the cold, damp walls. They descended into the darkness, the shaft echoing with the sounds of their movements. Below them, they could hear the Keral's footsteps, the crackle of their energy weapons. The hunt was relentless, the pressure mounting as they descended. Alex's mind raced, trying to formulate a plan, trying to find a way to turn the tables on their pursuers. He knew they couldn't run forever. They had to fight, to make a stand. They reached a lower level, a maintenance area filled with heavy machinery and storage containers. It was a cluttered environment, a chaotic landscape that offered both concealment and potential hazards. They slipped out of the ventilation shaft, their movements silent and swift. "We need to find a defensible position," Alex said, his voice low. "Somewhere we can hold them off." They moved cautiously through the maintenance area, their eyes scanning the shadows, their ears straining for any sound of approaching chaos. They found a small, fortified control room, a reinforced chamber designed to withstand heavy impact. It was a strategic location, a bottleneck that could be used to funnel the KR into a kill zone. They barricaded the entrance, using heavy machinery and storage containers to create a makeshift wall. They set up defensive positions, positioning themselves behind cover, their weapons ready. They waited, their hearts pounding, their adrenaline surging. The KL arrived, their footsteps echoing through the maintenance area, their energy weapons crackling with deadly intent. They advanced cautiously, their sensors scanning the environment, their eyes glowing with an eerie light. They reached the barricade, their movements swift and precise. They unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, the impacts shaking the fortified control room. The humans returned fire, their weapons spitting bolts of energy, their aim precise and deadly. The battle raged, the control room echoing with the sounds of gunfire and explosions. The kill, though outnumbered, were relentless, their attacks coordinated, their movements fluid and efficient. The humans, though outgunned, were determined, their resolve unwavering, their aim true. The KOL breached the barricade, their biomechanical forms surging into the control room. The battle intensified, the fighting becoming close quarters, the air thick with the smell of burnt ozone and metallic tang. Alex, his weapons spitting bolts of energy, fought with a ferocity born of desperation. He moved with a speed and agility he didn't know he possessed, his reflexes honed by the adrenaline pumping through his veins. He was a human, fighting for his survival, fighting for his home. The Carol Queen, aboard her flagship, monitored the battle, her eyes fixed on the holographic displays. She could feel the humans' resistance, their determination, their defiance. Her anger grew, a cold, burning rage that threatened to consume her. She had underestimated the humans, their resilience, their ability to adapt and overcome. She had believed that they would crumble before her power, that they would surrender without a fight. But they were proving to be more stubborn, more resourceful than she had anticipated. She would not tolerate such insolence. She would not allow them to steal her power, to disrupt her hive mind. She would crush them, annihilate them, erase them from existence. She focused her psychic energy, channeling her power into the KRL warriors, amplifying their strength, enhancing their reflexes. She would overwhelm them, crush their resistance, extinguish their hope. The KRL warriors, their minds linked to her own, felt the surge of power, the amplification of their abilities. They moved with renewed ferocity, their attacks more coordinated, their movements more fluid and deadly. The humans, though fighting valiantly, were being overwhelmed. The KRL's attacks were relentless, their energy weapons cutting through their defenses, their biomechanical forms impervious to their attacks. Alex, his weapon empty, his body battered and bruised, knew they were losing. They were outnumbered, outgunned, They were facing annihilation. He looked at his companions, their faces etched with exhaustion and despair. They had fought bravely, they had fought with all their might, but it was not enough. He knew they had to make a choice, a final, desperate gamble. They had to activate the prototype, to unleash its power, to disrupt the KRL's hive mind. It was a risky move, a dangerous gamble, but it was their only chance. He grabbed the prototype, its melted controls still glowing with residual energy. He looked at his companions, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "We have to do this," he said, his voice strained. "It's our only chance." They nodded, their faces grim, their resolve unwavering. They knew the risks, they knew the dangers, but they were willing to take the gamble. They were humans, fighting for their survival, fighting for their future. Alex activated the prototype, its power source humming with a growing intensity. The air crackled with energy, the smell of ozone filling the control room. The prototype's energy reserves reached critical levels, the device pulsing with an unholy light. The KRL warriors, sensing the surge of energy, turned their attention to the prototype, their eyes glowing with a mixture of fear and anticipation. They knew the danger, they knew the potential consequences, but they were powerless to stop it. Alex, his fingers trembling, pressed the activation button. The prototype unleashed a wave of energy, a surge of power that surged through the control room, disrupting the very fabric of reality. The lights flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. The air crackled with energy, the smell of ozone filling the nostrils. The KRL warriors, their minds linked to the Queen, felt the disturbance, the disruption of their hive mind. They cried out in pain, their bodies convulsing, their biomechanical forms malfunctioning. The KRL Queen, aboard her flagship, felt the shockwave, the disruption of her connection to her warriors. She cried out in rage, her psychic energy surging, her power unleashed. The spaceport shook, the very foundations trembling under the force of the Queen's power. The air crackled with energy, the smell of ozone filling the facility. The lights flickered and died, plunging the spaceport into darkness. The battle had reached its climax, the tension at its peak. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, the outcome uncertain. The darkness within the control room pulsed with an unnatural energy, a tangible manifestation of the KRL Queen's psychic backlash. The prototype, its purpose fulfilled, sputtered and died, leaving Alex and his companions gasping in the sudden silence. The KRL warriors, their biomechanical forms twitching and sparking, lay incapacitated, their connection to the hive mind severed. But the Queen's rage, a raw, untamed force, still reverberated through the spaceport, a chilling promise of retribution. What happened?" a scientist whispered, his voice trembling. "We disrupted their hive mind," Alex replied, his voice hoarse. "But the Queen, she's still connected. She's still coming." The ground trembled again, a deeper, more resonant tremor than before. The air grew thick with a strange, metallic scent, a sign of the Queen's psychic energy reaching its zenith. The lights flickered back on, revealing a scene of devastation. The control room was a wreck, the walls scarred and blackened, the equipment shattered and smoking. Suddenly, a section of the wall buckled and exploded, showering the room with debris. Through the gaping hole they saw her. The HFY Queen, her form radiating an aura of raw power, her eyes glowing with an incandescent fury. She had breached the spaceport's defenses, her flagship hovering above, its shadow casting a pall over the facility. She stepped through the shattered wall, her movements fluid and predatory. She was no longer a distant threat, a disembodied voice. She was here, in the flesh, her presence a tangible embodiment of their impending doom. "Humans," she hissed, her voice a low, guttural growl that resonated through the control room. "You have dared to defy me. You have dared to steal my power. Now, you will pay the ultimate price." She raised her hand, and the air crackled with energy. The remaining humans, their weapons useless against her psychic might, braced themselves for the inevitable onslaught. But then, something unexpected happened. A surge of energy erupted from the depths of the spaceport, a blinding flash of light that momentarily blinded everyone in the room. It was not the HFY Queen's power, it was something else, something ancient and unknown. The Queen recoiled, her eyes widening in surprise. "What is this?" she hissed, her voice laced with a hint of fear. From the shattered remains of a nearby storage container, a figure emerged. It was not a Kel, nor was it human. It was a being of pure energy, a shimmering, ethereal form that pulsed with an otherworldly light. "You have disturbed the slumber of the ancients," the being spoke, its voice a resonant echo that filled the control room. "Your conflict has awakened them." The HFY Queen, her anger momentarily forgotten, stared at the being with a mixture of awe and fear. "The ancients," she whispered, "but they are legends, myths." "Legends are born from truth," the being replied. "And the truth is they have returned." The spaceport shook again, this time with a force that threatened to tear it apart. From the depths of the facility, a series of energy signatures began to emerge, each one more powerful than the last. They were ancient machines, dormant technologies, awakened by the HFY Queen's intrusion and the humans' desperate struggle. The ancients, it seemed, were not just a legend. They were a reality, a hidden power that had been lying dormant beneath the surface of the spaceport, waiting to be awakened. They were a failsafe, a last line of defense, a hidden weapon designed to protect the planet from threats beyond human comprehension. The HFY Queen, realizing the gravity of the situation, turned her attention to the humans. "You have unleashed a power you cannot control," she snarled. "You have doomed us all." She unleashed a wave of psychic energy, attempting to crush the humans and the ancient being. But the being, its form shimmering and shifting, absorbed the energy, redirecting it back at the Queen. "Your power is insignificant compared to the ancients," the being declared. "You cannot comprehend their might." The HFY Queen, her power faltering, her confidence shaken, realized that she was no longer the dominant force in this conflict. She was caught between two powers, the awakened ancients and the resilient humans, and she was losing control. The spaceport, once a battleground between humans and HFY, had become a stage for a much larger conflict, a clash of ancient powers that threatened to reshape the destiny of the galaxy. The humans, caught in the crossfire, were no longer just fighting for their survival. They were fighting for the survival of their planet, for the survival of their species. The ancients, their machines awakening, began to unleash their power, a torrent of energy that surged through the spaceport, disrupting the HFY Queen's flagship, disabling its weapons, and severing its connection to the HFY homeworld. The HFY Queen, her power waning, her control slipping, knew that she had made a grave mistake. She had underestimated the humans, their resilience, their ability to adapt and overcome. And she had awakened a power that she could not control, a power that threatened to consume her and her entire species. She turned to the humans, her eyes filled with a desperate plea. "Help me," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the roar of the ancients' machines. "We must stop them. They will destroy everything." Alex and his companions, their minds reeling from the revelations, stared at the KRL Queen with a mixture of disbelief and suspicion. Could they trust her? Could they trust their enemy? The ancient being, its form shimmering with energy, turned to them. "You must choose," it said, its voice echoing through the control room. "Will you fight with the KRL, or will you stand against them?" The choice was theirs. The fate of humanity, and perhaps the fate of the KRL, hung in the balance. The spaceport, once a symbol of human ingenuity, had become a crucible, a testing ground for their courage, their compassion, and their resolve. The ancient being's question hung in the charged air, a stark choice echoing the impossible situation. Alex, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, looked at the KRL Queen. Her eyes, usually cold and predatory, now held a flicker of something akin to desperation. Could they trust her? Could they believe that she, the embodiment of their enemy, truly sought their aid? He looked at his companions, their faces etched with uncertainty. They were scientists, engineers, security personnel, ordinary humans thrust into an extraordinary conflict. They had faced the KRL's relentless onslaught, witnessed the Queen's devastating power, and now, they were being asked to trust her. "We can't trust her," a security officer whispered, his voice laced with suspicion. "She's the one who brought this destruction." "But the ancients," a scientist countered, his voice trembling. "They're beyond anything we've ever seen. If they destroy everything, we'll all be lost." Alex's gaze returned to the KRL Queen. He saw not just an enemy, but a being caught in a struggle beyond her control. The ancients, awakened by her presence, were a force of nature, an ancient power that threatened to consume everything in its path. "We have to try," Alex said, his voice firm. "We have to work with her. It's our only chance." His companions, though hesitant, nodded in agreement. They were humans, and they would not abandon hope. They would not surrender to despair. The ancient being, its form shimmering with approval, nodded. "Then let us begin." A surge of energy pulsed through the control room, a wave of power that linked the minds of Alex, his companions, and the KRL Queen. They were no longer separate entities, but a collective consciousness, united by a common goal. The KRL Queen, her mind linked to the humans, shared her knowledge of the ancients, their technology, their weaknesses. She revealed that the ancients' machines were powered by a network of crystalline nodes, hidden deep within the spaceport. If they could disrupt these nodes, they could disable the ancients' machines, stop their destructive rampage. They worked together, a seamless collaboration of human ingenuity and KRL knowledge. X and his companions, with their understanding of the spaceport's infrastructure, guided the Queen through the labyrinthine corridors, leading her to the hidden nodes. The ancients' machines, sensing their approach, unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, their attacks relentless, their power overwhelming. But the Queen, with her psychic abilities, deflected the blasts, creating a path for the humans to reach the nodes. They reached the first node, a pulsating crystal that radiated an intense energy. Alex, using his engineering skills, bypassed the node's defenses, disrupting its energy flow. The ancients' machines faltered, their attacks weakening. They moved to the next node, and the next, systematically disabling the ancients' machines, one by one. The spaceport, once a chaotic battleground, became a silent tomb, the ancients' machines powering down, their energy dissipating. The KRL Queen, her power amplified by the humans' collective consciousness, unleashed a final surge of psychic energy, severing the ancients' connection to their central control unit. The ancients' machines, now inert, fell silent. The spaceport, once a symbol of human ingenuity, had been transformed into a testament to human resilience, a symbol of their ability to overcome even the most formidable of threats. The KRL Queen, her connection to the humans severed, stood before them, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and respect. "You have saved us all," she said, her voice soft. "You have shown me the true strength of humanity." Alex and his companions, their bodies weary, their minds exhausted, looked at the Queen with a sense of accomplishment. They had faced the impossible and they had prevailed. But then, a final, unexpected twist. The ancient being, its form shimmering with an unsettling energy, turned to them, its voice no longer benevolent, but cold and calculating. "You have interfered with the natural order," it said, its voice echoing through the silent spaceport. The ancients were awakened for a reason. They were meant to cleanse this world, to eliminate the threat of both humans and chaos. Alex and his companions, their faces etched with shock, realized the truth. The ancients were not a failsafe, a last line of defense. They were a judgment, a sentence of extinction. The ancient being, a representative of a higher power, had manipulated them, using them to eliminate the ancients' machines, only to reveal its true purpose. "You have made a grave error," the ancient being continued, its voice laced with contempt. "You have prolonged your inevitable demise." A wave of energy surged from the being, a force that threatened to crush them all. But the KRL Queen, her eyes glowing with a renewed determination, stepped forward, her body radiating a protective shield. "You will not harm them," she declared, her voice resonating with power. "They are under my protection." The ancient being, its form flickering with anger, unleashed its full power, a torrent of energy that engulfed the queen. But she stood firm, her shield holding, her resolve unwavering. "You underestimate the chaos," she said, her voice filled with defiance. "We are not easily defeated." The battle raged, the spaceport shaking under the force of the ancient being's power. But the queen, with the human support, held her ground, her shield deflecting the being's attacks. Then, a final surge of energy, a desperate gambit. The queen, channeling the remnants of the ancient's energy, redirected the being's power back at itself, disrupting its form, severing its connection to its higher power. The ancient being, its form dissolving, its voice fading, uttered a final, chilling warning. "You have defied the will of the cosmos. You will pay for this." And then it was gone. The spaceport fell silent, the air still charged with residual energy. The KRL Queen, her form weakened, her eyes dimming, turned to the humans. "We have won," she said, her voice barely audible. "But the threat, it is not over. They will return." And with those words, she collapsed, her form fading into a shimmering mist, her essence returning to the KRL homeworld. Alex and his companions, their bodies battered, their minds reeling, stood in the silent spaceport, the weight of their victory heavy upon them. They had saved their planet, but they knew that the threat remained. They had defied the will of the cosmos, and they would face the consequences. But they were humans, and they would not surrender. They would prepare, they would adapt, they would endure. They would face whatever challenges the future held, together. The silence that descended upon the spaceport was profound, a stark contrast to the chaotic energy that had permeated its corridors just moments before. The echoes of the ancient being's final warning hung in the air, a chilling reminder of the cosmic forces they had dared to confront. Alex, his companions, and the remaining spaceport personnel moved through the wreckage, their footsteps muffled by the debris, their faces etched with a mixture of exhaustion and a newfound sense of grim determination. The immediate task was survival. The spaceport, though no longer under the direct threat of the ancients, was severely damaged. Power systems were down, life support was failing, and the structural integrity of the facility was compromised. They worked tirelessly, patching up breaches, rerouting power from auxiliary generators, and assessing the extent of the damage. The scientists, engineers, and security personnel, once divided by their roles, now functioned as a cohesive unit, their shared experience forging a bond that transcended their individual differences. As they worked, they reflected on the events that had transpired. The KRL Queen's sacrifice, the revelation of the ancients, and the chilling warning of cosmic retribution, these were not just events, but transformative experiences that had reshaped their understanding of the universe. They had witnessed the fragility of their existence, the precarious balance between survival and annihilation. They had also seen the power of unity, the strength that came from collaboration even with their former enemies. The communication systems, though damaged, were partially restored. They managed to send out a distress signal, a plea for help to the scattered human colonies and space stations. The signal was weak, but it carried a message of hope, a testament to their resilience. They had survived, they had fought back, and they were ready to rebuild. Days turned into weeks, and the spaceport became a microcosm of human endurance. They rationed their supplies, recycled their resources, and worked tirelessly to restore the facility's functionality. The arrival of rescue ships, a fleet of battered freighters and repurposed military vessels, was a moment of profound relief. The sight of familiar human faces, the sound of human voices, was a balm to their weary souls. The aftermath of the KRL Queen's arrival and the Ancients' awakening was a period of intense reflection for humanity. The events at the spaceport became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the importance of understanding the forces that govern the universe. The KRL, though no longer a direct threat, remained a presence in the galactic landscape, a reminder of the complex and often unpredictable nature of interspecies relations. Humanity, however, had changed. The events at the spaceport had forced them to confront their own limitations, to acknowledge their place in the vast cosmic tapestry. They had learned that they were not alone, that they were not the only players in the galactic drama. They had also learned that they were capable of extraordinary feats of courage and resilience, that they could overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. The technological advancements gained from their brief alliance with the KRL and the study of the remaining ancient technology were immense. It pushed humanity forward by generations. The understanding of subspace manipulation, energy transference, and even biological adaptation was now at their fingertips. However, the lessons learned were not just technological. A new era of diplomacy began. Human colonies, once isolated and independent, began to forge closer ties, sharing resources and knowledge. The threat of the Ancients, though dormant, remained a constant reminder of the need for unity. Humanity understood that they were not just fighting for their own survival, but for the survival of all sentient life in the galaxy. The KRL, after the Queen's sacrifice, entered a period of profound change. The hive mind, though still intact, was altered, its rigid hierarchy softened. The Queen's sacrifice had demonstrated the potential for compassion and understanding, even in a species known for its ruthlessness. The KRL began to explore new avenues of interaction with other species, seeking to establish peaceful relations, to learn from their past mistakes. Years passed, and the spaceport, once a symbol of conflict, became a monument to cooperation. It was rebuilt, stronger and more resilient than before, a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity. It became a hub of interspecies exchange, a place where humans and other species could come together to share knowledge, to build alliances, and to explore the vast expanse of the galaxy. Alex, once an ordinary engineer, became a symbol of human resilience, a reminder of the power of ordinary people to achieve extraordinary things. He dedicated his life to understanding the Ancients, to deciphering their technology, to preparing humanity for their potential return. He became a voice of reason, a voice of caution, a voice of hope. The events at the spaceport had left an indelible mark on humanity, a reminder of the fragility of peace, the importance of unity, and the enduring power of the human spirit. They had faced the wrath of the KRL, they had confronted the judgment of the Ancients, and they had emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. The galaxy, though still filled with unknown dangers, was a place of hope, a place of possibility. Humanity, having faced its darkest hour, had found its true strength, its true purpose. They were no longer just explorers, but guardians, protectors of the fragile balance of life in the cosmos. The story was not just about a battle against alien invaders, or a confrontation with ancient powers. It was a story about humanity's journey, its evolution, its transformation. It was a story about the power of compassion, the importance of understanding, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. The final takeaway was this: humanity, though small in the vast expanse of the cosmos, was capable of extraordinary things. They were capable of facing their fears, of overcoming their limitations, and of building a future where all sentient life could thrive. They were humans, and they would not give up. They would not surrender. They would continue to explore, to learn, to grow, and to protect the delicate balance of the universe. And that, in the end, was their greatest strength. The story of humanity, now, was one of hope. It was a story of a species that had looked into the abyss and found the strength to build a bridge.